called phin style. Phin has to do with what we have here, right? So we'll use it, and then if you happen to go to Vietnam and hang out in a cafe, you'll see this a lot, and people would sit there, early mornings, they'll sit there for hours and then talk and chat and pour over these coffees as well. Okay, do you like coffee? Everyone here like coffee? Yes? Okay, we have coffee fans as well. Let's see. Are we comfortable on pictures?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, so then.
Fake.
Okay, so then we'll just get started, and then let's see what we can do. I wonder if we have volume on this TV, but we'll see. Okay, so what is Vietnamese coffee known for? Here's one brand. This is straight from Vietnam, so it's a mix of Arabica and Robusta blends, so different types of beans. But today we use Cafe de Monde chicory coffees, and I'll explain why in a little bit. So Vietnamese coffee is well known for its very bold taste. So it's a traditionally Robusta flavor, so the small beans, it's really strong. It's stronger than Arabica, which is higher amounts of antioxidants. But because it's stronger, there's also higher levels of caffeine, which at least twice as much. So it may have side effects. So if you make it and you're a little bit sensitive to caffeine, make sure to dilute it a little more or use a little bit less coffee, because it gets me wired a lot. Then I can survive a whole day in college with this. Yes? Okay, so the taste profile for it is usually bitter, nutty, earthy, or harsh. Those are like normal words that are used to describe the Robusta flavor of the Vietnamese coffee. Okay. So brief background, in the 1800s is when it's believed that coffee culture was introduced to Vietnam via the French colonial period. One of the most popular origin stories is that a Catholic priest brought this coffee culture to Vietnam. Although most recently there are some studies or articles that say that maybe it was just the trade between Vietnam and France that started impacting coffee culture as well. But this would be the most popular origin story that was spoken amongst the Vietnamese of the time. So since then, Vietnam has become one of the leading coffee producers in the world. And as you can see here, in 2024, there's some export stats here that came out in January, is that Vietnam itself exported 1.32 million tons of coffee. That's a lot of caffeine, right? Going around there. And the estimated value is around 5.48 billion USD of coffee exports going out from Vietnam. So that's pretty amazing. So Vietnam is one of the leading coffee producers in the world, along with Brazil as well. And there's a brief link, and I highly recommend this site called Cafe Ly. Ly is like cup in Vietnamese, and cafe is coffee. You can see here, just really quickly, if I scroll through, and you can come to this site, there's like an article or a blog about coffee, like almost every day. But in the 1850s is when you get traditional Vietnamese iced coffee, and today we're going to use condensed milk, which is what you have there. And it was first used because the French colonial period, they came over and they found out that there weren't that many dairy sources available in Vietnam, so then they started mixing it with condensed milk. And then that's how we're going to get to the coffee that we have today. And then in the 1880s to 90s, they said, okay, we'll grow Vietnamese coffee here for export. And then 1930s, they met labor shortages, and later in the 40s is the coffee leaf rust, and this started affecting the type of coffee that they would grow in Vietnam. So after the French rule and then the Vietnam War came, so a lot of different political events that happened in Vietnam, and the golden era that's after that, and economic impact. By the 21st century, something that was started during the leaf rust shifted Vietnamese exports from just Arabica to primarily Robusta flavored coffee. So that's how we get that signature taste we have today. And so in the present, we have the modern production, including what we will make here today. So that's very brief history. There's people who are more qualified than me to talk about it. So check out the site if you want. Okay, so about today's brew, we have Café du Monde. It's a French-owned coffee company, and the neat thing is that this coffee is mixed with chicory root. And this is a New Orleans staple with roots in Civil War history. During the Civil War, there was limits in trade amongst part in America. So what happened is that they started mixing chicory root with coffee beans to get coffee flavor and such, and then it became a staple in New Orleans. In the 1900s, when the Vietnamese Americans had formed a diaspora of refugees around New Orleans, they found that the chicory mix was the closest to the flavor that they had for Vietnamese cafe, so coffee. And so they started drinking this one a lot, and it became a Viet American staple for the cafe and the phin style that we use today. And although Café du Monde is a French-owned company, there are many generations of Vietnamese families that have worked for the company since the 1970s and 80s. So that's why if you go to restaurants, you'll see a lot of Vietnamese restaurants use Café du Monde coffee as their go-to for their brews. Okay, so hopefully you find this interesting. Okay, so how to brew. Before we check out this short, what we have here is the phin filter itself. So there's different parts to it. You'll have here the lid, okay? And inside this lid is this little filter. So you don't need to use paper or anything for this. You put the coffee in, you compress it with this, and you pour water in. And this also meets with there wasn't very much paper production for filters over Vietnam. Like we would have go to the supermarket over here and buy paper filters or such. So they'll be using these stainless steel mechanisms. And you have this chamber here, and then the base. So the chamber goes on top of the base, which goes on top of your cup, and the lid here helps the coffee bloom and steep over time. Okay, so I'm wondering if we have a volume here. No, I can always explain. So let's see, it's gonna work.
They grab the right ingredients. Café du Monde is the OG brand. It's sealed so fresh you need a candle. Then grab the sweet condensed milk. Get the one with the god of longevity on it. It looks like an old man. It also comes in a squeeze bottle now, which is so convenient. Use as much as your heart can handle. Then use a Vietnamese phin filter. It's kind of like a drip pour. Like I said, this is the traditional way of making it. Add about 2 tablespoons of coffee, or again, however much your heart can handle. Press down on the plate to compact the coffee a little bit, then add a little bit of water to help it compact. Let it rest for a few seconds, and then loosen the lid a little bit, and then proceed with pouring in water, about 4 to 5 ounces. When it's done, give it a little stir, and then watch it change colors. You can drink it as is, hot, but I much prefer drinking it with a glass of cold, crushed ice. I don't care how cold it is. Sometimes when I'm feeling lazy, I'll drink the packaged kind you get at the Asian market, but I much prefer making it the traditional way.
Okay, and that's what we'll be doing today, right? And